Hello and welcome to the Fulhamish Quick Take here after a 3-1 win against Newcastle United. Who would believe it? We've beaten the Toon for the first time in 7 years and it was fully deserved. I'm joined by Elizabeth Barnard. Hello, thank you for joining me.
Hello, Dan.
We're here at the Craft Beer Co. in Hammersmith Station. I've got myself a little Pillars Pilsner. Delightful. Liz, what have you got?
I've gone a bit rogue. I've got a melon cherry cider.
Delightful.
Delicious.
It's the weather for cider today. It's glorious down by the river. So get yourself down to the Craft Beer Co. Great spot. All the best beers in London here on tap. Just a short walk from the ground. Perfect place to debrief after a superb 3-1 win.
It's actually crazy. I can't believe it. We always lose to Newcastle and it's always humiliating. So, yeah, I don't know how it gets better than this, really.
Yeah, I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer, but I've got a friend who's a Newcastle fan, and I went through our past 4 league results, and I went, okay, so there were 2 games where we had a man sent off, and we lost by 3 goals, and then the other 2 games we lost 1-0 with a goal in the last 10 minutes, and things couldn't have gone more differently today. I thought it was a whirlwind start. We obviously conceded a goal within the first 4 minutes that was correctly ruled out for offside, and it felt like pretty much went straight down the other end, and Raul Jimenez with a superb swivel, take it on the chest, turn on the volley. It's a great goal and 2-2 for Raul.
Yeah, such a lovely instinctive turn from Raul. And obviously, great work getting it to that position, being assisted by Adama, right? Yeah, made him well.
Another assist for Adama Traore as well. He's having a similarly good start to the season.
Adama season, perhaps. And just such an instinctive turn. So good, such a great finish. I don't think there's anyone else on the pitch that can do that right now for us. And yes, so good also, just after Newcastle had thought they'd scored. In fact, on the screens, it was still showing, did you see, checking disallowed goal for Newcastle, but the ball went in the net. I don't know what would have happened. A lot of fun.
For anyone who wasn't there, the screens at Craven Cottage still said checking disallowed goal, whilst Fulham head down the other end, Adama whipped the ball in and Raul buried it. And yeah, 1-0, and actually from there, it felt like we got a little bit more control in the game. Mm-hmm. It started, I think it was a bit of a frantic first 5-10 minutes, and then actually Fulham really started to run this game. And I mean, Emil Smith-Rowe, his second goal for the club, just such an exciting performance.
Yeah, such a good finish, such an exciting performance. It's my first time seeing this team in the flesh this season, and he's so electric down that wing, and he's so technically excellent as well. Such a obviously fantastic combination, and to cap it off with the goal, I don't know what the limit is for him, but it feels like at the moment that it's the sky.
Yeah, and it's looking like, I think the exciting thing is it's looking like he can only keep getting better as well. Right. You know, we're still seeing him come off after 70-75 minutes, building up his match fitness, and it feels like there's still more to come, which is amazing. But I think one of the great things in this first half was that we've criticised Fulham at times this season for looking pretty and looking nice, and then every time we get into the final third, we can't get the right ball, or it's a poor decision, or it's a poor shot. But today it felt a lot more incisive. It was quick. That front 3 in behind Raul with Iwobi, Smith-Rowe and Adama just felt like they all clicked today.
Yeah, when Adama's playing well, it's so exciting to watch him. And equally, those 3 behind him, I was a little bit concerned about our output, especially after West Ham, where we had all these kind of half chances, but nothing that, obviously we didn't win that game, famously. But yeah, today just looks so clinical and so much better than Newcastle throughout, in an attacking sense. Such a delight.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, it felt like today, I don't know if you were the same, but it was my first home game of the season, actually. I've missed the past 2, and I struggled to get excited for today. I think it's because we've seen this script before with Newcastle. They've not been great, but they've been picking up points, and it felt like something similar has happened. But actually, quite quickly, we realised how up for this Fulham were, and I think the crowd responded, and Craven Cottage was really fun today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I would compare it to the Bournemouth game last season, which was also a 3-1 home win, where Bournemouth had a bit of a hoodoo over us. And every time we were like, oh, you know, we've got to play Bournemouth and we're definitely not going to win. And I felt that coming to the Cottage today, even though I was excited, first time at Cottage this season. But then we were just simply better, like, throughout the game. And obviously you worry that we're going to do something really Fulhamish and, like, concede a penalty at the last minute or whatever. But it just didn't happen. And for that, we can be very grateful.
I mean, speaking of very Fulhamish, it did feel like we were going down that route. I mean, at half-time, going in 2-0 up, we were full value, and it was actually fairly comfortable. The only downside of that first half was the number of yellow cards being dished out, and it felt a little bit one-sided. There was some dubious refereeing going on in that first half, but I think that's probably what led to Sasha Lukic coming off at half-time, being on a yellow card. We saw Sander Berge come on at half-time, and before we knew it, we're sat here behind the camera with Dom Betts, and if anyone knows Dom, they will absolutely know that he did not see the Newcastle first goal and only goal, because it happened about 30 seconds after the restart, and it did feel a little bit, here we go again for them.
Yeah, it just felt like a lapse in concentration. You were talking about Anderson being at fault for that goal, and just like defensively so easy to cut through. I mean, it was very skillful from Newcastle to finish it like that, but I just thought, oh, right, okay, that's it. Like, we've had our fun. We've gone 2-0 up against Newcastle. This is never going to last. And we've spoken in the podcast about being a bit soft. Like, last week, the guys spoke about us against West Ham, obviously against Manchester United. We also conceded late. And I just thought, oh, okay, it's going to happen again. But it didn't, so it's okay.
It didn't. And it was interesting because I thought Eddie Howe deserved a lot of credit for what he did with that Newcastle team at half-time. He made a couple of substitutions. He brought on Lewis Hall and he brought on Jacob Murphy. And actually we saw a change in shape from Newcastle. They went to sort of 3/5 at the back. And they got Anthony Gordon and Harvey Barnes into dangerous areas. But I think what Fulham really deserve credit for is that we reacted to it. And yes, we didn't react instantly, but I think it was a bit of a curveball. I've not really seen Newcastle do something like that. But I think a lot of credit goes to our back line in that second half. One for me, I don't know if you enjoyed it as much, but Kenny Tete, I think we have... It was sad last season, as much as it was wonderful to see Timothy Castagna in this team and playing well, to see the sort of the fall of Kenny Tete, and I feel like we're seeing the rise again. And Anthony Gordon just had no joy, and it led to him being substituted off with 10 minutes to go because Kenny Tete was all over him.
Yeah, and Gordon is one of my favourite non-Fulham players in that I think he's really excellent, really fiery, can make a chance out of nothing. And yeah, he just didn't have anything today at all. And Tete was fabulous today, I thought. Really, really tenacious, really, really good at winning those balls and scrapping. Yeah, thank you for the Kenny Tete Renaissance, Marco. That's another thing to thank him for.
Yeah, and if we look at the other members of that back line, Joachim Andersen, I know I did say that I think the goal is probably his fault, but outside of that, he is so lovely to see in this back line. He's so calm, he's so assured. Obviously, we know how good he is with the ball at his feet, but I think defensively he looked great. It's lovely to see him in that back line, isn't it?
So good, and I think he makes Calvin Bassey so much better. Calvin Bassey is a defender I love, but does have a mistake or two in him, and I think he brings this assuredness to the back line, as well as just being excellent at getting those blocks in and being a really physical defender. So good to see him back. I saw a couple of people with Anderson shirts from the relegation season when he was on loan with us, and what I want to say is, wow, congrats to them on investing in those stocks. Never gave up, and here we are.
You've got to play the long game. I think that's you'd be so happy. I know a certain Ben Jarman over in Canada does own himself an Anderson jersey from back in the day, so that's nice to see. And I think the other thing that I thought was good to see today is that people have said that Joachim Andersen, the downside of him is that he's not very quick, but I think he way makes up for it by how smart he is. There was times when he got stuck against Anthony Gordon and in a foot race, and he's so smart that it's not a problem that he can't keep up with them because he's always one step ahead, and I think that was great to see. And then I think we'll come on to, as you said, the sort of seeing this game out and game management, and obviously last week sucked. We hated it. It was horrible because it felt like Fulham are getting in a routine of throwing away points. And it felt like there was maybe an air of inevitability around Craven Cottage just because of how we felt in recent weeks. But you got to say, game management-wise, the boys have nailed it. I mean, to come away not just holding on to a 2-1 win, but to make it 3 at the death, it's pretty perfect.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, fabulous finish from Reece Nelson. He was helped out quite a bit by the fact that Bruno Guimaraes sort of passed it across his own goal to someone smack bang in the centre, ready to shoot, but it was a great finish. So you got to say congrats to him for that. But yeah, I just thought everyone was a lot smarter in the way that they walked around and moved, and like there was a point where Andreas was taking a corner one side and then I wouldn't even call it a walk, like more ambled across to the other side. And I was like, this kind of stuff that we haven't seen from Fulham for a little bit, that kind of corner flag mentality of just trying to eke out those minutes. Yeah, a lot stronger. And although obviously like we're always worried we're going to throw away points, coming out of the game now with hindsight, there was never really any danger of it. Leno didn't actually have that much to do. And also a final shout out to the fans at the front of the Hammersmith end, who every time a ball came, they would hold it, they would wait until Pope kicked, and then they would throw. That's a kind of housery I can get behind.
Yeah, I was a big fan of this as well. We were wondering if Marco might have stationed a couple of sort of stooges in the front of the Hammersmith end, because it was like clockwork. I mean, it was every time they knew exactly what they were doing, just delaying the restart. And it's, you know what, it's quite nice to see that happen to Newcastle United, who I think are the biggest of houses when it comes to time wasting and trying to slow down the clock and see out a game. It was nice to give them a taste of their own medicine and a thoroughly professional performance in a moment. And I think that the best place to get your final thoughts on this, in a moment where it felt like maybe not a must-win for Fulham, but certainly a must-not-lose, with a tough run of fixtures coming up, it makes a whole heap of difference to come away from today with a 3-1 win, 3 points, up the table and looking pretty.
I think that's the thing, like at this point in the season, it's more important to me how we play rather than the results. But if we'd played really well and come away with a draw, I think everyone would have started to get a little bit nervy. And we've been speaking about some of the weaknesses in our team, and I don't think we'll be at threat of relegation at all this season. I didn't before today, but people would have started to be looking down rather than up the table. But now with this kind of result, we're showing that we can really compete. We can challenge teams with a lot more money, a lot more resources than us. So yeah, very, very exciting win. And it's making me excited for what's to come now, like Forest away next week. I'm up for that.
Yeah, roll on Forest away, as long as it's like 2 years ago and not last year, because one was much more fun than the other as someone who was at both of those. But Liz, thank you very much for joining me.
Well, thank you very much, Dan.
And thank you very much to the Craft Beer Co for hosting us here at their pub after the game. We'll be here every week after home games. It's a cracking little spot. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekends, Fulham fans. It's always nice when we've got 3 points. Come on, you Whites.